webcast live and a recording of this meeting will be made available as soon as possible after the meeting has concluded. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings, but I have had no request for people to speak Welsh today, so the meeting will be conducted in English only. And please, can members refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. And please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking, and do not interrupt discussions until you have notified of your intention to speak and you have been invited to do so. Okay, right. Moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, welcome and apologies. Niall, do we have any apologies, please?
We haven't received any apologies, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare? No, thank you very much. Agenda item 3, minutes from the 11th of July 2023. Members, just to remind you, these are the minutes of the meeting scrutinising the update on recommendations report and also the updates on audit referrals. Members, do you approve of these minutes, please? Proposed by Nick, seconded by Liam. Okay, thank you. Right, agenda item 4 is the action sheet. So, Rebecca, could you please run through the action sheet?
Thank you, Chair. Members, there are no actions outstanding that need updating on. Thank you.
Right. Agenda item 5, the Springboard Innovation Centre business case. I would like to welcome to the meeting Councillor Joanne Gordon, who is Executive Member of Economy, Skills and Regeneration, Gareth Beer, who is Head of Economic Development, Asset Management and Property, Dawson Evans, who is Group Leader of Strategic Economic Development, and Gaynor Wakelin, who is Business Development Officer. Firstly, can I thank officers and some of the business representatives operating from the Springboard Centre who facilitated a visit by the committee last Friday. It was really useful to speak with everyone and tour the building prior to the session today. I'll now hand over to Gareth and Councillor Gordon to give a brief introduction to the report. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and morning members, and thank you for the invite to join you today. So, in February 22, Prosperous Committee heard of the challenges facing Springboard Innovation Centre and considered if the current operating model was fit for purpose, given the decrease in occupancy and subsequent decrease in income. As recommended, a report came back to committee in October 22 to review the report from Oxford Innovation, where members recommended work began to scope option C3, which is entering into a third-party operator commercial partnership. Today, members are asked to consider if the full business case is robust enough to deliver the transformation needed for Springboard, so it can be viable, sustainable and a flagship for entrepreneurial activity in Torfaen. So your recommendations will be included in the full business case for a Cabinet to consider in the new year. Thank you.
Yeah, just thanks. Just to add to Councillor Gordon's opening remarks, I mean, thanks to members again for taking the time to consider Springboard. I think this is the third time the topic has been discussed at scrutiny. Just to kind of pick up on a couple of points. So the last consideration by scrutiny committee was October last year, as Councillor Gordon's mentioned. Quite a lot of work has been done in the intervening period. We've in developing what you've now got to consider, which is the full business case. As Councillor Gordon has mentioned, the full business case is largely based on what was called option C3 within the Oxford Innovation report that came to scrutiny last time around. That's been slightly varied, as we'll no doubt discuss this morning. A couple of key features. We now have a much better appreciation and understanding of the condition of the building at Springboard. which is something that we didn't have at the last discussion, partly because that wasn't part of the brief that was given to Oxford Innovation. So a full building conditions survey has been undertaken and completed and reviewed internally, and that features within the full business case. We've also focused in the full business case on a number of measures, particularly in the early years, so years 1 to 3, to generate income to try and stabilise Springboard's finances. So the long-term aspiration would be to reduce the level of subsidy required from the council, but very mindful that at the moment there's quite a large subsidy going into the Springboard budget. So the aim is to as I say, to take a number of steps to generate additional income in the early years to try and stabilise that position. And then, as part of the of this kind of process, we're planning to introduce more flexibility around the range of businesses that can become part of what we call the Springboard community. But in saying that, not compromising the basic principles of what Springboard is all about and the role that it plays in the local economy as effectively our key hub for the establishment and growth of innovative and high potential businesses. So I'm happy to talk through the paper in more detail, but in essence, what you've got in front of you is in our opinion, a business case that contains the necessary ingredients to, first of all, stabilise Springboard, but also to kind of energise the transformation process to allow it to thrive into the future. So we welcome discussion at scrutiny this morning, and members can make some recommendations to feed into the final business case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I now invite the executive member and officers to contribute to responses as you feel appropriate, please? I now invite members to ask their questions as per the list distributed by Rebecca following our pre-agenda. Okay, so question 1, first up, relevant paragraph 417, Councillor Carl Gordon, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and welcome to the people of Springboard coming to speak with us today, and the executive member. Thank you very much. My question relates to 4.17 of the report, where it says central proposition of the preferred operating model is that the core aim or position of Springboard as the central hub at the heart of Torvine's innovation ecosystem remains intact. The question is, what benefits can be realised from maintaining this as the central proposition of Springboard?
Do you want to take the end? If you go back to the Torvine County Borough Council Economy and Skills Strategy, the innovation ecosystem is a key strand right the way through that. And one of the pieces of work that we've been completing is around Springboard, is looking at the business incubation provision in Torvine. So we've been working with some private sector providers, and the work that's being done is to use Springboard and the private provision to actually attract more knowledge-based businesses, etc. in. So Springboard is a key player in that, because what we want to do, we want to standardise the way that we work with these companies, so there's a consistent approach, so that we are attracting the right kind of people in. So that's why it's a key component of the innovation ecosystem, as stated there. There's also some work being done around competitiveness as well, and that will go towards that, because if you look at the UK Competitive Index, we've got some work to have a look at around that as well. So that's why Springboard needs, or we need, a physical front to it to be able to actually put that work across the borough.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Question 2, which relates to paragraph 419, a question by Councillor Nick Hawler.
Good morning, everybody. 4.9, the overriding objectives to ensure the occupancy of the rental levels are driven as quickly as possible over the next few years to allow Springboard to demonstrate the ability to transform from a loss-making venture to a facility that over time can support its own operating costs. My question to you is, the overriding key objectives is to ensure that occupancy levels are driven as quickly as possible over the next few years. Is increasing occupancy rental levels only the only benchmark of performance that will be used to determine the success of the Springboard? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Within the business case, one of the annexes contains a performance measurement, performance management matrix. So the aim, subject to the business case being approved, will be to set up effectively a kind of Springboard transformational board, and that board will monitor progress against a whole range of measures. So as the paper says, it's one of the overriding key objectives is to drive up occupancy and income, but it's not. It's one of probably 8 or 10 performance measures that we'll be looking at. The main objective for Springboard is its function as a hub for business development and growth. So that will always be the principal kind of area of focus. But as we discussed at the last scrutiny committee meeting, the current levels of occupancy, particularly because of the what's happened over COVID and some of the tenants moving out and not returning, there are some operational challenges. So we're kind of mindful of trying to balance the financial stability alongside making sure that we effectively kind of transform and reposition Springboard so that it's got a stronger platform to provide that business support. So to answer your question, it's one of a range of considerations, not the only one.
Happy with that, Nick? Okay, thank you very much. Move on to question 3, which is relevant to paragraph 419 BP2, and a question for Councillor Liam Coles.
Thank you, Chair. At paragraph 4.19 and bullet point 2, it says that one of the objectives of the preferred operating model is more clearly define Springboard's role and its overall vision. And my question is, should we determine that before we put forward a finalised business case? Thank you.
So the vision is there is reference within the marketing plan within the full business case. So in one of the annexes, there's a marketing plan which articulates not a different vision, but a kind of a re-energised, refocused vision for Springboard. Business plan is kind of draft at the moment, so clearly that welcome your comments and we'll obviously firm up on some of these considerations moving forward. The other consideration around the vision for Springboard is the entrance or eligibility criteria. So one of the observations that we had, partly through the report that was provided previously through Oxford Innovation, was that potential customers for Springboard, first of all, don't necessarily kind of see it in the marketplace. So Springboard is not kind of coming up on people's radar necessarily when they're doing kind of property or business support location searches. But also then there's some confusion. If people can find Springboard, they're confused as to what type of businesses can go in there. So there's a perception that it's only for high-tech businesses, whereas actually Springboard is about trying to support innovation, high potential business growth, so across a range of sectors. So a combination of adjusting the vision and adapting the eligibility criteria, I think, will give us a better product. And actually, if you look at other products in the market, if you're not careful, the entrance criteria can be seen as a barrier. So what we're trying to do is to kind of to remove the barrier, but as I said earlier, without removing the overriding objective, which is to keep Springboard as our kind of our central hub for innovation within the County Borough.
Okay, Liam?
Yes, fine, Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're on to question 4, which is relevant to paragraph 419, bullet point 7. It's a question on draw on internal expertise from other specialist teams. Have we identified this internal expertise from specialist teams, and are we confident there's a resource we can tap into?
Sorry, Chair, can you just say again which paragraph was that? It's quite a long one.
It's 419,
Yeah.
Bullet point 7.
Fine. Okay. The third party expertise is a combination of kind of internal and external factors. So part of the proposition, and this is one of the kind of the variations on what was proposed by Oxford Innovation, is to bring in a commercial property agency to work alongside our in-house team to principally market Springboard to generate additional interest, and then in driving the pipeline that will convert into higher levels of occupancy. So that's one dimension. The other dimension is the fact that within our service area we've got economic development and the property service within Torvine. So integrating the two services, I think for Springboard will be really helpful, because we've got, for example, expertise within the property team to help with property maintenance and repair, but also the asset management team who are marketing all other kind of council assets on a daily basis. So this is an area of activity that they're very familiar with, and at the moment that function is being delivered solely by the Springboard core team, who aren't necessarily property experts. So pass the doors.
I think a lot of the partnerships are already there. They just need to be operated a bit differently, and we need to look at being more proactive than reactive in the way we look at the building, the way we maintain the building. Within the report, there's a transformational committee to be set up, and that will include people from those teams as well. So that, I think if Springboard's been guilty of anything, it hasn't evolved at a pace that the rest of life has, especially in the innovation stroke technology sectors. And it's getting that team around it so that that evolution becomes natural to the project rather than contrived. And we have an asset management team within the council that are really successful. You know, their portfolio is 99% full. Yet we haven't directly worked with them from Springboard with regards to our occupancy. Well, obviously that's something with Gareth managing the service that he manages now became apparent very quickly. So that's something that we will be addressing through. So that's the idea behind working with the other teams. The work happens, but we need to change the way in which it happens.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for that answer. Question 5, which now the relevant paragraph is 4.22. Councillor Carl Gordon, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and it sort of leads on from the previous question. In 4.22 it says clear targets will be established for Springboard. I'd be interested to know what, and this is not necessarily part of the question I've written down, but what targets have we got in place now? How will they differ? And other than occupancy rates, which we get, the pandemic, all the rest of it, what other targets would be good measures of success? What are the social benefits, the economic benefits? Because this isn't about just making Springboard watch its face commercially, is it? It's about the wider benefits. And what sort of checks and balances have we got in terms of targets for that? Thank you.
The targets for Springboard have changed as part of the work we've done, and we report on a lot more things via the county plan for Springboard than we ever did. We look at occupancy, we look at pipeline of people wanting to come in, we look at jobs, we look at money attracted, and they're the economic benefits that come via Springboard to Torfaen. There's another piece of work that Gareth and I are about to embark upon around competitiveness, and around which one of the key drivers is technology businesses. Right? So we need to put those kind of, needs to have specific targets, i.e. number of businesses, occupancy, income, but it also needs to look at those wider economic benefits around the competitive index, around the economy and skills strategy, around the county plan as well. So that's how it's going to be driven forward. And the benefits we expect is employment, quality jobs, graduate opportunities, and then you can go into things like reducing brain drain, so that you're keeping higher qualified people within the borough. So there's all stuff, but I think the thing that's become apparent is that the finance needs to be addressed first to be able to really drive that forward in a way which it has done in the past.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'd like to bring in Councillor Joanne Gordon, our executive member, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to add, Councillor Gordon spoke about the social and economic benefits of having an innovation ecosystem, based at Springboard. So Dawson's already mentioned about the highly skilled jobs, so there'll be those employment opportunities for our residents, for our communities, but that also will mean that, maybe we'll have less commuting out of the authority, and maybe even less people moving out of the authority. Our younger people, our graduates moving out to big cities, keeping them in our communities, keeping families intact. So I think that's really important too.
Okay, thanks very much for that.
Just follow up on that. I'm grateful for the answers. That's really useful, because we do, as a committee, recognise the sort of the wider benefits of Springboard. It's not just a service office; it's much more than that. Have we got, apart from sort of anecdotal evidence, how do we kind of track the tangible benefits coming from it? So if you've got a business that's a start-up and a sort of move, and use Springboard to sort of in its infancy and all the support mechanisms and all the rest of it, and then it sort of moves on and it expands and all the rest of it, have we got tracking mechanisms for that?
One of the weaknesses that we have in Springboard at the moment is an alumni programme. If you look at the really successful business incubators, they run those kind of programmes, and it is to keep track and it is to carry on working with the businesses that are graduated out. At the moment, with the way that it's been over COVID and stuff, right, that graduation process hasn't happened, and we haven't had anything new in. So that's part of the stuff we will be looking at going forward. I've looked at those kind of programs before. I've implemented them in other places when I was on secondment away from the council. It's something that we need to address as part of the programme going forward.
Well, I'm grateful for the answer and the honesty. When we, and I quote, set clear targets, that might be something you want to build in to that. And I'm sure it's on your mind anyway, but it's just a sort of a reminder. Thank you.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Question 6, which is relevant to the paragraph 423, and it's a delivery of specialist task by others. Is there sufficient resources and capacity within the asset management teams and the property management team to contribute to achieving this theme?
Very good question, Chair. The answer is within the asset management team, as Dawson's already mentioned, have a relatively kind of full cohort of staff members, which is quite unusual at the moment because there are quite a lot of vacancies within most teams, and principally it's the asset management team, their expertise around property marketing, helping to support the renewal of leases, granting new leases. That's where the main bulk of the resource will be required. So I'm confident that there is sufficient resource within the asset management team to provide this support. The property management team is probably more challenged in terms of workload and resource, but there are steps being taken separate to this consideration to bolster the resource that we've got within property management. The reality is the budget headroom is always challenging, and I think that's part of the consideration that has affected Springboard over the years, in the sense that the building was finished in 2006, 17 years old, and it's starting to show signs of wear and tear. That's not really it's not a human resource issue. It's probably more of a financial resource issue in terms of why that's happened. But as I mentioned earlier on, the plan is very early on is to make sure they're more than cosmetic improvements, but those improvements take place, and they will be delivered through the resource we've got in-house through property management. So on both counts, I've got total confidence that we can deliver the level of service that's required, but there are capacity issues within both of the within at least one of the teams.
Okay, thank you very much.
Could I just add to that?
Yes, certainly.
Don't mind, sorry. As well as those teams, throughout the report, there's external expertise coming on board as well. So there will be some marketing through an outside property agent as well, and it's to supplement the good work that the teams internally already do. So yeah, they are. We're confident they are in a place to do what we're asking them, but we're also recognising there is a need to supplement as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions? Well, two questions now. Councillor Nicola. First one, question 7, which is relevant to paragraph 424.
Dawson, this follows on from what you've just mentioned. It's about procurement of specialist commercial letting agency. Even working with the commercial letting agent, are we confident that the current market indicates a demand for such a provision as the Springboard Centre? Tough question.
We've already done some work with an external property agent, and they've already brought 2 people in, one of which have already moved in and one is about to move in at the end of the month. So yes, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, and we've done that.
That's a positive report. Thank you. My next question?
Yes.
Sure. Last week, some of us visited the Springboard Centre on Friday, and we saw ourselves the remedial work that needed to take place and spoke about the updates to technology. Will these updates be sufficient to attract demand from commercial lettings, also in the light of new modern ways of working?
The short answer is yes, based on what I've just said. But there are also 2 other clients looking to move in as well that we're working with. The team down at Springboard have had an incredibly busy year, and there's some real positive stuff going on, and it's starting to show through the interest being generated. We haven't had that kind of interest since COVID. So yeah, the answer is yes. Is there room for improvement? The answer is yes. This is all about putting Springboard to a place whereby we can work with companies. If you're going to improve the technology within Springboard, it would need recabling. Not to get too technical, but the cabling we have there at the moment can deliver the gigabyte of broadband width that we have. If we wanted to move on to a wireless environment rather than the ports that we have now, it would need different cabling. Because bear in mind that cabling was put in 2005. So that's what Springboard has been guilty of anything. is that the evolution hasn't kept pace with the technology. And there's a lot of factors for that. One of the main drivers of that is the finance that's been made available. So yes, but yes, there is room for improvement. Thank you.
Happy with that, Nick? Yes. Right, on to question 9, which is relevant to paragraph 6.6. I'd like to call Councillor Liam Coles, please.
Thank you, Chair. At paragraph 6.6, it says that there's a potential risk that some of the financial assumptions within the full business case prove to be inaccurate and or undeliverable. So I just wondered, what contingencies do we have in place should any of the financial aspects become more costly than is budgeted or anticipated? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. The reference. When we set up the transformation board, one of the key considerations for the board is going to be kind of risk management. So a full risk register will be set up at that point in time. But in the meantime, the building. So there are two elements here. One is the kind of the expenditure side of the equation. The other one is the income. So the greater level of risk is around income, and the two components there are the assumptions made around occupancy levels and the ability to increase occupancy from its current level, which is just below 50%, up to 80 or 85% by year 3. And in parallel with that, the aim is to increase the charge rate per square foot from the current rate, which is kind of £19 a square foot, up to circa £25 a square foot. So our own assessment is that that's achievable, but obviously until we embark on that journey, we won't know for sure. Just to provide some assurance around that, we've taken some separate independent property expert advice around the assumptions that we've made, and the feedback has been, at the moment, the charge rate for Springboard is effectively it's too low. We're cheap in the market. So there's certainly scope to increase rents. Whether we can get them up to £25 a foot, again, we won't know until that point in time, but certainly something close to that is seen to be achievable. The occupancy rate, as Dawson's already touched on, although we're operating at something technically slightly below 50%, we've already had some occupancies in the last couple of weeks and more potential tenants going in. So I think the occupancy target will almost take care of itself with the additional resource that we're bringing on board. So that's the income side of the equation. That's where I think that the main risks that we need to look at are on the expenditure side of the equation. The building programme has been configured in a way that funding can be moved from year to year. So the focus in year 1 is really on what I described as kind of wind and water type, which is probably putting it a bit too dramatically, but dealing with roof leaks and doing some essential work, but also some work that you could probably move into year 2 or 3. So there's some flexibility in terms of contingency within the way in which the capital programme has been put together as well. Not sure that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, thank you, Liam. It's back to you for another one of your questions about the building condition, I believe.
It is, Chair, yes. So in the actual business case itself, it says that in relation to the building conditions, such options have been discussed informally with the Welsh Government Energy Services colleagues who have indicated that there may be scope to attract reasonably significant levels of grant funding. So it's a similar question to my previous question, but do we have a contingency potential should grant funding not be available? Thank you.
So the grants funding. There are almost 2 elements to the way in which the finances have been constructed. So you've got almost the early years, kind of years 1 to 3 or 4, where we're deliberately trying to limit the amount of capital investment that's required. So the reference to discussions with colleagues in Welsh Government about potential energy funding is it's kind of from years 4, probably more 5 onwards, and it's more in relation to things like a major overhaul or replacement of mechanical and electrical infrastructure within the building, and also the roof replacement, where we will be looking to do something which is a different technology to what we've currently got, something called the warm roof. So with a focus on renewable energy, so the possibility of putting solar panels on the roof. So configured in a particular way, apart from accessing grant to pay for the renewable energy installations, we've had some encouraging conversations around the kind of the infrastructure that's required to accommodate that. So we're hoping that some of the costs of, for example, the roof would be able to form part of those kind of grant applications. Is that the question?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Just to add to what Gareth said there as well, with the way that external funding is geared now, since we've moved away from European funding, the grant schemes are more short-term. So what we have is an opportunity that in the next round of funding that's coming our way, we can look at positioning what we're trying to do around the innovation ecosystem using Springboard as the figurehead to actually look at other grant funding as well. So Welsh Government isn't the only thing in town. So that's why the plan is structured the way it is to get Springboard to there, and then for us to sit down and get the next one on through whatever becomes available.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, yeah, thank you both, or three of you. The next question I'd like to ask our Executive Member, Councillor Joe Gordon. An internal Springboard Transformation Project Board is going to be established. Are you going to take a role on the project board? And if so, how can you assure us that any major issues will be flagged in a timely manner?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Project boards are typically managed in-house and officer-led. So typically, exec members aren't invited or expected to go to the project board. What does happen is that when we have our briefings, which are weekly, we have regular updates. In fact, Springboard's a standing item, isn't it, on our agenda? It's something we look at every time. So we would be updated on progress, on risks, on worries, and also on success. And when things are going well, we're making good progression. Flagging issues, the economic development team meet monthly. So if there was an issue in between the quarterly project board meetings, then they are able to go to the chair for direction of the decision making. And of course, if an issue is a significant issue, it would go on the council risk register and performance managed from there.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Right, entrance criteria, question 13, relevant to paragraph, bullet point, appendix 2, sorry, and question to be asked for Councillor Nicola.
Appendix 2 sets out the refinement of entry criteria for the Springboard. Based on the comments from the property professionals with regard to the previous criteria, have we sought their views on revised criteria to ensure that it's going far enough to attract potential tenants?
Because we'd had written advice, the criteria, as it's been put into the report, is based on the written advice that we received from a company called M4 Properties. So yes, the answer is, did we run them past them before we went? No, but they are based on the recommendations they give us in their letter.
Thank you.
Yes, Dawson says that the criteria, the adapted criteria, are they're derived from advice and guidance that we received already. I mean, obviously, what we would do at the point of procuring the commercial agent is to have a kind of working session around, that kind of marketing proposition. And if there's a need to refine criteria at that point, I think that would be a perfectly appropriate thing to do.
Thank you. That's really welcome, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on to question 14 on a marketing plan. Councillor Liam Coles.
Thank you, Chair. Have we thought through a transition programme to ensure the skills and benefits from the commercial partner are transferred to our in-house team to be able to continue this work once the partnership ceases? Thank you.
Could you repeat the question, please, Liam? I couldn't quite grasp it.
Of course I can, yeah. Have we thought through a transition programme to ensure the skills and benefits from the commercial partner are transferred to our in-house team to be able to continue this work once the partnership ceases?
The transition plan isn't in place now, but what part of the procurement will be around a legacy of the work that's to be done. So that will be built into the procurement process of how we pick our partner. So yeah, it will be, but it isn't there now.
Thank you, Dawson. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just add to, so as Dawson's mentioned, the commercial partner, the idea is that that team sit alongside our existing core team and with a view to embedding their commercial experience and expertise into the core team within Springboard moving forward. And as Dawson mentioned, there's a legacy aspect to that, but it's also about adapting systems and procedures as well. So whilst we've got our own internal procedures around, in the way in which we've operated Springboard in the past, we want to learn from the commercial partner and, where possible, take the benefit of any alternative approaches that they might bring to bear. So that piece of work is deliberately time limited. It's a short, sharp engagement with a mentoring partner, really, on the basis that the skills, experience, systems, processes are then embedded into the team moving forward.
Just to supplement that as well, it's around network building as well. When I first started working in Springboard, more years than I care to mention ago, there was an organisation called UKBI, which was a network of business incubators that ran workshops, ran training programmes, and I was lucky enough at that time that I went through that stuff. That's not available anymore because that organisation got stopped funded. So part of this is actually increasing the network of our team as well. So it's being able to pick up the phone to people, it's being able to speak to people, because I found that a great tool for my personal development, like I said, when I first started in it. So there's a lot to that mentoring process off the back of just that 1 year short, sharp fix.
Okay, thank you very much. Question 15, please, Councillor Carl Gordon.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll shorten this question for brevity. Do we see foresee any potential issues or barriers to achieving any of the recommendations set out on pages 53 and 54 of the report?
I think, I mean, as we discussed earlier on in terms of kind of risk management, I think, we'll put the measures in place to deal with that. There are always going to be potential challenges in terms of the aspiration that's been set out, but the recommendations, I think, are relatively self-contained in the sense that they relate to funding being allocated. It's the availability of funding, that kind of corporate support to Springboard moving forward, and then I think it's more about the kind of the can't think of the right words here. Operationalisation. Okay, you know what I'm trying to say. Operationalisation of the business case itself.
I was just going to add, the biggest banana skin is most probably staring you in the eye, because it's up to us to get it done and get it done right. It's up to us to listen to people and listen to advice and take things forward. and it's up to us to actually create a real good team atmosphere to actually get over those barriers. So, it's the same as any project. The biggest banana skin is the people in it.
Yeah, I'd like to call in Councillor Joe Gordon, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add that it's really reassuring that because of Gareth's good work to get the building condition survey done, we know exactly where we are. We have the complete, honest, ugly truth of what the building looks like. So obviously our recommendations meet all of those potential issues we're going to meet over the year, and that is reassuring.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. Before the last question, I'd just like to ask if Councillor Price or Councillor Byrne have any questions, please. No, for you. Councillor Byrne?
No, thank you, Chair. There was a couple of questions I did want to ask, but they've been covered because, unfortunately, I couldn't get onto the pre-agenda yesterday for some reason. I did try 3 or 4 times, but they've been asked, so that's fine. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. Question 16 then. Can you clarify the short-term timeline in terms of the business plan being approved, works commencing, and commencing work with commercial partners, please?
Thanks, Chair. So in terms of timeline, so subject to scrutiny's consideration, the ambition is to put the final version of the business case to Cabinet in January next year. We'll then be mobilising very quickly to run the procurement processes for the commercial agent and the mentoring partner to have those in place by the start of next financial year, so 1st of April. And then the building programme, the year 1 is effectively going to start on the 1st of April next year, so will be phased. Those works will be phased to be completed during the course of next financial year, so all within kind of 18 months of now we would have finished kind of year 1 and seen those essential improvements taking place, and you say agent on board, mentoring support on board, so hopefully a largely kind of reinvigorated springboard by around this time next year. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate all your answers to the question. I'd obviously like to thank Councillor Gordon and the officers. My duty now to invite you to leave the meeting, please. Thank you. Right, members, can I remind you that the meeting is still in formal proceedings and therefore obviously still being webcast. Members, can I refer you now to the scrutiny activity, invite you to offer your recommendations, and I'll hand you over to Rebecca, who will formulate the recommendations with us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So as you'll see on page 17 of your agenda, in section 8 is the suggested scrutiny activity, which is the Prosperous Overview and Scrutiny Committee is invited to review the information provided and firstly to determine whether the recommendations support the outcome of the full business case and will deliver the proposed transformation of Springboard. So members, can I ask firstly, do you have any recommendations or comments to feedback in terms of those recommendations? So I take it you're all satisfied that that will be the outcome. Thank you. Okay, secondly then is with regards to the timeline, and Gareth talked you through that then at the end, so you're satisfied with the timeline in terms of introducing these actions? Thank you. So then finally, it's to provide comments and recommendations for future delivery to the executive member for economy, skills and regeneration. So do you have any recommendations based overall on any of the discussions that have taken place today? I did pick up, firstly, Councillor Cowles, you raised the question about the vision being set before the business case is set. Now, they did say it was mentioned in one of the later appendices, so I didn't know whether you wanted to recommend something along the lines of making that vision a bit stronger within the, the front section of the business case.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. And then secondly, Councillor Gordon, there was your point with regards to keeping track of businesses as they've moved out and building that into the targets and the alumni programme that also mentioned.
Yeah, some sort of tracking system, if you like, to sort of see the wider benefits, because if we don't acknowledge that this is more than a serviced office space, it could put its future at risk. We need to sort of demonstrate going forward that this has tangible benefits in terms of the economy of Torfaen, sort of jobs and skills in Torfaen. And as the exec member said, the brain drain people travelling out of Torfaen. So just some sort of checks and balances on that, really. Thank you.
Could we put something in about question 8, talking about moving the technology forward and seeing how they can innovate it and how quickly they can do it to attract more commercial lessons?
Thank you, members. So I think that was all that I managed to pick up. So unless you have anything further you'd like to add, I will obviously formulate those recommendations and email them all to you later for approval before they get sent back to the exec member. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Agenda item 6, item for next meeting. Rebecca, can you please take members through this report, please?
Thank you, members. So this is the report where you discuss what item you'll be taking to the next meeting of the committee, which is scheduled for the end of November, I believe. You will see in the appendix, you've got the basket of items that you selected at the visioning exercise. Then you would have any audit referrals or any items that are on the exec forward plan that are coming up. You will see from the basket of items, you had originally selected cultural venues, but since that, I have spoken with the strategic director, and unfortunately there's some timing issues around that now, and receiving the advice that they need to take that work forward at this time. So we're going to put to you, if possible, in your reserve items was Townscape Heritage Programme, and it's been suggested that that is particularly timely at this moment. So just to remind members, that was suggesting that you review the performance of the Townscape Heritage Programme delivery within Blenavon, including the wider economic and social outcomes delivered. And as a scrutiny committee, you'd be invited to review the existing programme and make recommendations on wider principles when delivering commercial property grant programmes. So, members, over to you. Are you, unfortunately, we can't take what you originally planned, but are you happy to with the replacement?
Yeah, fine.
Yep. Lovely. Thank you very much, members.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Over to me then, agenda item 7, date of next meeting and closing meeting remarks. I'd just like to confirm the next meeting is scheduled for the 30th of November at 10 a.m. And also like to thank everyone here for their attendance and contributions today. And all that remains for me is to close this meeting. Thank you very much all.